Meet Grace and Owen. They're both 33, and in the same month, they both furnish new apartments after a move, buying nearly identical big-ticket items, a $1,200 refrigerator, an $800 washing machine, and a $1,600 television. At checkout, both are offered the same extended warranty package, roughly 18% of the purchase price, covering repairs and replacements for an additional 4 years beyond the manufacturer's standard 1-year coverage. Grace buys the warranties on all 3 items. Owen declines every single one, and instead transfers the equivalent dollar amount, roughly $649 total, into a separate savings account he labels repairs. From that identical starting point, they're about to run a 5-year experiment neither of them realizes they're running. There are 8 points to this comparison, and each one gets a little closer to what's actually being bought at the checkout counter besides the item itself. Let's go through them in order. Point 1, the incorrect framing at checkout, and the research behind why the math rarely favors it. Here's the incorrect way most people evaluate this decision at checkout, the way it usually plays out at the register. The warranty costs so little compared to the item itself, and the peace of mind feels worth it, so why not just buy it? That framing treats the warranty as basically free insurance against bad luck, without ever asking the one question that actually determines whether it's a good deal: how likely is this specific item actually to break within the covered period, and how does that probability compare to what you're being asked to pay? Consumer Reports, which has studied extended warranty value extensively across major appliance and electronics categories for decades, has consistently found that most major appliances and electronics simply don't fail often enough within a typical extended warranty period to make the warranty a good bet mathematically, and that when repairs are needed, the cost frequently falls well below what the warranty itself cost to purchase in the first place. This isn't a controversial or contrarian finding, it's one of the most consistently replicated conclusions in consumer research on this exact topic, and it's precisely the calculation that gets skipped in the 2 or 3 seconds most people spend deciding at checkout. Behavioral economists Xavier Gabay and David Leibson, whose research on what they call shrouded attributes examined how retailers structure add-on pricing to exploit predictable gaps in consumer attention, found that extended warranties and similar add-ons are frequently priced well above their actuarial value precisely because the decision gets made in a rushed, low-attention moment at checkout, disconnected from the careful cost-benefit analysis a buyer might apply to a larger, more deliberate purchase decision. The warranty isn't priced based on what repairs actually cost the retailer to cover. It's priced based on what a distracted, mildly anxious customer will agree to pay in the 30 seconds after already committing to a much larger purchase. Point 2, Year 1 and 2, nothing breaks, then a small, real repair. Year 1 passes uneventfully for both Grace and Owen. Nothing breaks. Grace's $649 in warranty payments has bought her nothing yet beyond a vague sense of protection. Owen's $649 sits in his repairs account, untouched, and if he'd invested it instead of just saving it, it would already be quietly growing. This is where the incorrect framing usually gets defended, but what if something breaks, as if the warranty's value depends entirely on a single hypothetical failure rather than the actual, calculable probability of that failure occurring. Year 2, Owen's washing machine develops a minor issue, a faulty drain pump. He calls a local appliance repair technician, pays $145 for the part and labor, and it's fixed within a day. Grace's identical washing machine, still under warranty coverage, could file a claim, but hasn't needed to, since nothing has gone wrong with hers yet. Owen's repairs account, after this single expense, still holds $504 of the original $649, with 3 years of warranty coverage remaining on Grace's side and nothing broken on either side to actually test the comparison meaningfully yet. Point 3, Year 3, Grace's first real claim, and the honest accounting underneath it. Year 3 is where the comparison starts to get genuinely interesting. Grace's television develops a persistent flickering issue. She files a warranty claim, and after a 2-week wait for a technician appointment and a replacement part to arrive, it gets fixed at no additional cost to her, precisely the scenario the warranty was designed to cover. This is a real, legitimate point in Grace's favor, worth acknowledging honestly rather than dismissing. The peace of mind and the actual $0 repair did materialize exactly as advertised, for this one item, in this one instance. But here's the incorrect assumption baked into treating this single positive outcome as proof the warranties were worth it overall, evaluating one claim in isolation instead of the full portfolio of coverage purchased. Grace paid roughly $288 for the television's extended warranty specifically. The repair she received would likely have cost somewhere between $180 and $220 out of pocket based on typical flat panel display repair costs, meaning even counting this one successful claim, she's essentially broken even on this specific item, not clearly ahead, once you account for what she paid to have the option available in the first place. Meanwhile, her refrigerator and washing machine warranties, representing the other roughly $361 of her original $649, have produced 0 claims and 0 value across the same 3 years. Owen's equivalent washing machine repair cost him $145 directly from his own account. His refrigerator and television have had no issues at all during this same stretch. Adding it up honestly at the 3-year mark, Grace has spent $649 on warranties and received one repair worth roughly $200 in value. Owen has spent $145 out of his $649 repairs account on one repair, and still holds $504 of it, either sitting in savings or, if invested instead, growing at a typical market return. Psychologist and behavioral economist George Lowenstein, whose research has focused extensively on how anxiety and dread shape financial decision-making, has written about how people frequently overpay for protection against outcomes that provoke disproportionate worry relative to their actual likelihood or actual financial impact. The fear of an expensive, unexpected appliance failure feels considerably larger in the moment of deciding whether to buy a warranty than the calm, after-the-fact math ever suggests it should, which is exactly why warranty attach rates remain high across the retail industry despite the consistently unfavorable math consumer reports and similar research keeps documenting year after year. Point 4. Year 4, the scenario self-insuring is actually risky for, and whether Owen's discipline held up. Year 4 brings a real test of Owen's approach, and it's worth being honest about the scenario that makes self-insuring actually risky rather than just cheaper on average. His refrigerator's compressor fails entirely, a repair that would cost $520, close to half the appliance's original purchase price, high enough that a technician recommends replacement instead. Owen's repairs account, still holding $504 after the earlier washing machine fix, covers almost the entire replacement cost on its own, with Owen adding just $180 from his regular budget to cover the remainder and upgrade slightly to a comparable model. Grace's identical refrigerator, still under warranty, gets the same failure covered entirely, a genuine $0 outcome for her in this specific instance. This is exactly the scenario extended warranties are actually designed around, a genuinely expensive single failure that could meaningfully strain someone's finances if they had no cushion at all to absorb it. For Owen, the self-insuring approach worked here specifically because he'd actually kept the money set aside rather than spending it, treating the repairs account as a real, protected fund rather than money that quietly got absorbed into general spending the moment it wasn't immediately needed. That discipline is doing real work in this comparison, and it's worth naming directly rather than assuming self-insuring succeeds automatically just because Owen happened to follow through. Point 5, Year 5, the full picture, and why, who technically won, isn't actually the right question. Year 5, the full picture comes into focus. Grace has paid a total of $649 across 3 warranties and received 2 genuine, covered repairs, the television and the refrigerator, worth a combined value of roughly $720 in avoided repair costs. On this specific set of purchases, across this specific 5-year stretch, her warranties actually paid off, delivering slightly more in covered repairs than she spent to buy the coverage in the first place. This is worth stating plainly rather than glossing over, because it would be dishonest to pretend Grace's approach failed here. It didn't. Owen, meanwhile, spent $145 on the washing machine and $180 topping up the refrigerator replacement, a total of $325 in actual out-of-pocket repair costs, while his original $649 has been reduced to roughly $324 remaining, which, if he'd invested rather than simply saved it, would have grown modestly further over the 5 years even after those withdrawals. Comparing the two totals honestly, Grace came out very slightly ahead in this specific 5-year window, by a relatively small margin once every real number gets counted, not the decisive win. The incorrect warranties are always a waste, framing sometimes claims, and not the decisive loss. The equally incorrect, just buy the warranty for peace of mind, framing assumes either. Here's the piece of this comparison that actually matters more than who won this single 5-year window. What happens if you run this same experiment across many purchases and many years instead of just one apartment's worth of appliances? Grace's outcome in this specific story depended heavily on two claims landing in her favor, a flickering television and a failed compressor, both real, both legitimate. Run the same scenario with different luck, no major failures at all across 5 years, and Grace would have simply paid $649 for nothing, while Owen would have kept his full $649 plus growth. Consumer Reports' broader research across thousands of appliances specifically found this pattern holding at scale, that on average, across large numbers of purchases, self-insuring outperforms extended warranties, even though any single individual purchase, like Grace's, can absolutely go the other way depending on which specific items happen to fail. This is the correct way to think about the decision, not, will this specific item break, which nobody can predict with any real confidence, but, if I made this same bet on every major purchase for the rest of my life, which approach comes out ahead on average, and can I personally absorb the occasional expensive single failure if I choose the approach that doesn't guarantee coverage? Point 6. When the math favors buying the warranty more strongly, and when it favors self-insuring even more strongly, there's a version of this decision that favors buying the warranty more strongly than the average case suggests, and it's worth naming honestly. If you genuinely have no cushion at all, no savings that could absorb a $500 or $1,000 unexpected repair without real financial strain, the peace of mind Grace experienced isn't just psychological comfort, it's protecting you from a real, disruptive financial shock at a moment when you're least equipped to handle one. The math favoring self-insurance assumes you actually have the discipline and the capacity to set money aside and leave it there, the way Owen did. If that discipline isn't realistic for your own situation, a warranty functions as a form of forced savings specifically earmarked for exactly the kind of expense it's meant to cover, similar to how a whole life insurance policy's built-in discipline can be worth its cost for someone who wouldn't otherwise invest the difference consistently. There's also a version worth naming that favors self-insuring even more strongly than Grace and Owen's story suggests, someone making many smaller purchases rather than a few big ones. The math on extended warranties tends to get worse, not better, on lower-cost items, since the fixed markup on the warranty itself represents a larger percentage of the item's value, and the actual likelihood of a costly failure on something like a $200 small appliance is considerably lower than on a $1,200 refrigerator with genuinely expensive components inside it. Point 7. Different categories, genuinely different math, cars, laptops, and phones. There's a scenario worth naming separately, because it changes the math meaningfully, extended warranties on cars specifically, which work differently from appliance warranties in ways worth understanding on their own terms. Picture a third person here, Grace's brother-in-law Marcus, who buys a certified pre-owned sedan the same year and is offered a $2,400 extended warranty covering the powertrain for an additional 5 years. Unlike a refrigerator, where a single catastrophic failure like a compressor rarely exceeds the item's full replacement value, a modern car's major components, a transmission, an engine, can individually cost more to repair than the entire extended warranty itself, making the math considerably more favorable toward buying coverage than it typically is for household appliances. Marcus's transmission fails in year 4, a repair that would have cost him $3,800 out of pocket, fully covered under his warranty. On cars specifically, the single failure cost is often large enough relative to the warranty price that the calculation genuinely tilts differently than it does for a television or a washing machine, and treating every extended warranty decision as identical, regardless of what's actually being covered, is its own kind of oversimplification. There's a related category worth naming too, laptops and phones, where the math tilts in yet another direction, this time driven not by repair cost but by accidental damage rather than mechanical failure. Standard manufacturer warranties typically exclude drops, spills, and cracked screens entirely, the actual leading cause of laptop and phone damage in real-world use, meaning an extended plan covering accidental damage specifically is protecting against a genuinely common, expensive event rather than a rare mechanical one. Owen, buying a new laptop the following year, actually does purchase the accidental damage plan for exactly this reason, distinguishing it clearly in his own mind from the appliance warranties he declined, precisely because the failure mode being insured against, a cracked screen from a dropped bag, happens far more often and far more expensively than a refrigerator's compressor failing within any given year. Point 8. How to actually decide the next time you're offered one at checkout. So how do you actually decide the next time you're offered an extended warranty at checkout? Start by asking what the manufacturer's standard warranty already covers, since many failures happen either very early, still covered by default, or well beyond the extended period regardless. Then consider the actual repair or replacement cost if the item did fail, compared honestly to what the warranty costs, since a warranty priced close to what the repair itself would cost offers you very little real protection even in the best case. And be honest with yourself about whether you'd actually set aside the equivalent savings the way Owen did, or whether that money would simply get absorbed into ordinary spending the moment it wasn't demanded from you immediately, since the entire self-insuring strategy only works if the discipline behind it is real. And to close things out, here's the point that ties all 8 together. Grace and Owen ran an honest, 5-year version of this exact bet, and it came out close to even, with Grace very slightly ahead due to specific bad luck with 2 particular appliances that happened to fail. Run across a lifetime of purchases instead of one apartment's worth of them, the math tends to favor Owen's approach on average, but only for someone who actually keeps the money set aside rather than simply spending less on warranties without ever building the equivalent cushion behind it. The real choice was never warranty versus no warranty. It was always discipline versus convenience, wearing 2 different price tags at the checkout counter.